The following review is intended for entertainment purposes and targeted for adult fans of the series.
Phantom asks Birdman if Birdman is Birdman. Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to another comically long review. I told you I'd keep doing these even after Dino Fury came back. There's a quick thing I'd like to mention before we get started here. Some of you in the past have suggested that my longer form of videos might better be experienced as audio podcasts. Well, I've finally taken that advice to heart and sort of started a podcast. It's just audio versions of my videos for the moment. For example, you can see my review of the first episode of Dino Fury Season 2. But if you want to check that out, you can head on over to anchor.fm/orange-ranger-audio. And if you happen to be listening to this on Anchor right now, there's also a video version you can watch over on YouTube. Ah, the glory of the one-shot. Those unnecessarily numbered comics, usually number one of one, that tell their own self-encapsulated story, even if it might be interconnected to other stories in a line. The Imperials are destroying worlds left and right, having just destroyed Hartunia in Power Rangers number 8. But is anyone else besides the Omega Rangers on the case? And what do the Tengas have to do with it? Find out in my review of Power Rangers Unlimited: Edge of Darkness.
Please make sure you're subscribed to the channel.
Yeah, and make sure you got your notifications set up by hitting that little bell icon.
Right you. What he said was, you can consider checking us out on Patreon or Ko-fi at Orange Ranger Videos.
I would be remiss to not mention some controversy surrounding this writer, though it involves litigation, so I'm going to word this carefully. In August of 2001, writer Frank Gogol, I think that's how you pronounce it, was accused by another comic writer, Melissa White, of calling her a racial slur at NYCC BarCon 2018. In October, Gogol sued White for defamation, and to my knowledge, that case has not been settled or resolved. The publisher of the bulk of Gogol's work, SourcePoint Press, has temporarily distanced themselves from Gogol while the case resolves itself. I include this information because it may be a very important part of your decision to purchase or not purchase this book. The main cover is why I brought up the Tengas. We see the Phantom Ranger protecting a little girl from a flock of the loud purple bird grunts. There's a connecting wraparound variant where we see 3 Imperials fighting the 3 emissaries. Well, Red is sort of posing with the Phantom Ranger, and by the way, is that a skirt? Yikes! I remember a similar sort of Trapper Keeper art cover for Heir to Darkness, but wow! Master Vile front and center, but this is so busy, it's visually painful. Sorry. Beautiful shot of the Phantom Ranger. Database surely has this hanging in his place somewhere. I don't even have to ask to know that this is second printing art. Boom loves to go with the concept art for that. Phantom here looks a little, the kids would say, dummy thick. That's what's left of Hartunia? A ship lands and a figure steps out. By the way, this is now, at least, set right after Power Rangers number 8. 40-something pages? Better stretch this thing like a bungee cord. The Phantom Ranger looks around, then calls Zordon, reporting they've reached the last witnessed location of an Imperial. But that's not important right now, so let's flash back Power Rangers' favorite unit of time, over 10,000 years. It's actually a flashback we've seen before. Rita Repulsa's mother fleeing with her and telling her to close her eyes as Tengas attack. But now we get to see what happened immediately after. Closing her eyes didn't help Rita, as she's brought before this head Tenga dude. Her mother tries to protect her, saying she's just a child. But the head Tenga says she's so much more than that, or she will be. And we see that Phantom is there, watching, hidden.
Oh well, gosh darn, ain't that convenient.
Great! This comic gets even more uncomfortable to review. So, the Tengas actually mean that they plan to sacrifice Rita to gain favor from the Great Darkness. But they have her laying here in a Star of David. The proportions are a little bit off, but it is a 6-pointed star. Okay, I'm gonna be clear here. That whole racism, defamation thing, that was strike 1. And this is strike 2. If I see anything else in this comic that is racially or culturally or religiously questionable, you're not going to see this video or hear these words, because I'm going to stop reviewing the comic.
Well, that settles that.
So anyway, they plan to sacrifice Rita. Her mother begs them to stop. They can't begin to know what they're tampering with. Someone else plans to stop them though, as the Phantom Ranger attacks. They stay in camo, so the birds figure that they're dealing with a ghost. They flip around, planting a bomb on one, then getting clear as it explodes.
Your head will explode.
Phantom clears out the last 2, and then they do me a solid and remind me what this woman's name is, Lady Fienna. Phantom explains they're a friend and Zordon sent them, but more Tengas arrive. I guess Phantom is tired now, as they decide to run, Phantom shooting back at the birds. They say they're going to have to fight, telling Fienna and Rita to get to cover. Phantom does some more bird beating, but the head Tenga catches up. He says that they will get the child back because he has faith. Faith is apparently this egg or fruit or whatever, and when they eat it, they become Arnold Schwarzenegger. Phantom tells Fienna their ship is at the tree line and programmed to take them to safety. Whether Phantom escapes doesn't matter. That's the mission.
You have a mission to fulfill!
Rita is scared, so her mother starts telling her a story about a girl who was scared but called to the light or something. Giant Birdman beats Phantom around, but they get their gun pointed at the giant bird, cloak, and use a bomb to blow the bird up. Fienna and Rita reach the ship. Some kind of Breath of the Wild robot creature confirms who she is and asks if she would like to launch, but she doesn't answer. The bird survives the explosion, punching Phantom. Phantom says it doesn't matter if they die, they got the girl and her mother free. Birdie attacks, but it turns out Fienna came back, saving him. She kinda played it both ways, telling the ship to launch and going to get Phantom, so we get a dramatic run to the ship where they just barely get on board. Giant Muscle Bird grabs Fienna's leg, but she pulls a Kirk had enough of you on the bird.
I have had enough of you!
The ship launches and its afterburners either kill the birds or chase them off or whatever. Giant Bird is alive and stares up at them. He's hurt. Badly. Correction, fatally, unless immediate action is taken. If there is an action you can take that will save their life, then they're not fatally injured, are they? There's energy leaking from Phantom's suit. Rita asks Fienna if she'll save. Okay, now the comic refers to Phantom as him, so I will roll with that, but I don't really think we have any way of knowing for sure. Fienna will try to save him, but needs to know what is leaking from the suit and how to stop the bleeding. Phantom starts to have an out of suit experience. I mean, he's in the suit, but we don't even know if he has a body. Anyway, we come right back to Fienna, who figures out the armor is powered by the morphing grid. You know, this particular way of wording this solves a possible little issue I had with one of my Dino Fury hot takes. I posit that Void Knight is a Power Ranger. However, in the first episode of Season 2, we see his armor, and it's a physical set of armor that exists outside of a morpher or anything. So I was a little more hesitant to declare him a Power Ranger. However, Fienna says that Phantom Ranger's armor is powered by the grid. Maybe it's the same case for Void Knight. This gives her an idea, zapping Phantom with presumably grid energy. I mean, hey, she is wearing the Green Ranger shield on her chest. But something happens to him.
Something's happening to it!
Posit Phantom Ranger's life force, battle suit, and power ruby are interrelated systems. Corollary, critical damage to his battle suit is resulting in failure of the other systems.
What are you talking about?
Rita is apparently seeing Phantom fall through whatever it is he's falling through, and asks if he's scared. She says she'll stay with him like her mom does when she's scared, and Fienna realizes that this is helping somehow. She asks Rita to tell Phantom a story with light puppets, and this isn't making shadow puppets, as fun as that would be, but legit magic. Rita tells a story about a mommy and a daddy who were going to have a baby, but then Master Vile came and took the daddy away. Hearing that reminds Phantom that Master Vile is still out there. Dark Spectre is still out there. Wherever the heck he is, he starts flying back up instead of plummeting down, as Rita says this isn't a sad story, since Vile will one day be defeated, and the mommy, the daddy, and the little girl will be a family again. Fienna says Rita did well, but really Phantom has only been stabilized. Unless he gets a new infusion of grid energy, he'll die. Fienna demands they go find some, but the robot confirms what Phantom was thinking about earlier. This mission is specifically set to deliver Fienna and Rita to safety, whether or not Phantom lives or dies. Fienna asks if she can change their course manually, and the robot says no. She asks if Phantom can, and the robot doesn't answer. So she wheels Phantom over to the panel and uses his hand to change course. Turns out this really hurts and he wakes up screaming. Okay, no, this is later, as the robot says they've arrived, but there's no time caption, so Phantom asks where she's taken them, and when he realizes, he's definitely worried about it. Why?
Well, to that I have to give my standard answer, why not?
Because they've arrived at the last place they should be leading Master Vile to. The Master Forge. Okay, not the Master Forge, a Master Forge. They are outposts built by a lost race of explorers, the Morphin Masters, to study the grid. The outposts collect and store grid energy, and Phantom's suit works exactly the same way. They can then use it to power great machines. Zords? Fienna seems to understand all of this pretty well, so Phantom asks her about it. Turns out Fienna and her husband, Eldon, were researchers very similar to the Masters. And eventually, we discovered a way to peer within it. That's gross! I don't care if it's chlorinated, I don't care if they put that Blue Family recreational chemical into it. You should not... Oh. Peer within it. Like, look inside it. Oh.
Very poor choice of words.
The grid let them see the future, in this case about Rita. It showed Fienna Rita as the Mystic Mother. But when Eldon looked in, he saw Rita Repulsa and heard Dark Spectre's voice, which poisoned his mind. He became obsessed with bringing the giant monster to their dimension, but eventually he and the others trying to help him realized that Dark Spectre in his natural form is incompatible with this universe. He is entropy. The grid is basically life, and Dark Spectre is basically death. So, not unlike Evox, Dark Spectre would need a vessel, someone hollowed out for him to inhabit. Fienna explains to Phantom how Zordon protected her as she gave birth to Rita, and they've been running ever since. Phantom knows that Vile is already likely on their way to the base, so they need to use this outpost to recharge his suit and then get the heck out of Dodge. Fienna points out something interesting. His suit was bleeding grid energy, but the grid energy wasn't coming from his suit. The energy is him. He confirms this, and Fienna further guesses his history is tied to these Master Forges. He says it's a long story. At this point, we are past the 20-page mark. We are on the back half of this issue. This has already been a long story.
Get on with it!
Phantom stands on basically a charging pad, and Fienna zaps him good with energy. This sequence of events is so unclear that I actually just wrote this straight in the script and then got confused while filming and had to go back and check. But basically, Phantom is successfully recharged. Then, Phantom again tries to sacrifice himself to complete the mission, but Fienna has had enough of the martyr complex. She is putting her foot down, stopping to fight to give Rita something she hasn't had in her entire life. A day of peace. Phantom realizes she has a plan, and she does, using the power of the Master Forge to stop Vile for good. And seeing as we know that Master Vile survives past the point where this little girl becomes Rita Repulsa, I'm putting the odds of success for this plan pretty darn low. The grid is the source of all life, an interpretation that really started with the 2017 Power Rangers movie, but seems to have carried over to the comics and maybe even the show, which is why Dark Spectre can't enter a universe where it exists. The plan was apparently to use Rita as the vessel he would enter, but Fienna says they can zap her daughter with grid lightning, oh okay, tempered to be safe, to make her incompatible with Dark Spectre. But tempering means this is going to take longer. Rita is scared and wants to hear another story, but there's no time for that. She just has to be brave. Rita can be saved by being infused with grid energy, but the process will take time and evil is approaching. Does this sound like the setup for a classic video game, protect this point for this long mission? Yep! They activate the process and the Tengas attack, Phantom telling Fienna to keep going and he's gonna play the protection mission. The Tengas burst in and Head Tenga is still super muscly Tenga. He can tell Phantom is back to full strength, but that's just the way he likes it. Fienna realizes it's not working and that she has to turn up the intensity, which is going to hurt Rita. Meanwhile, Head Tenga is apparently a psychologist as well, pointing out how Phantom keeps running towards death, seeming to believe it will give him a purpose. But Dark Spectre has many followers. If Giant Bird is defeated, another will just take his place. If Phantom is defeated, they've lost. Phantom turns around Birdman's question to him, asking if he knows why he is going to lose. He zaps the Birdman away with his Power Ruby. The energy is hurting Rita, but Phantom steps over to help her, even as Master Vile arrives for Rita, by telling her a story. There once was a great knight who had lost everything. The knight got really sad and couldn't find a way out of the depression. Meanwhile, Fienna quietly asks Rita to forgive her for what comes next. She cranks the energy to max, presumably destroying the station and her. Phantom and Rita end up on a planet somewhere, with Master Vile coming for her. The story continues as Phantom says the night happened upon a girl who was brave and knew the Woods of Sadness well. The girl asked the knight if he wanted to leave the Woods of Sadness, but he knew he couldn't. He'd wandered too far in. Meanwhile, Vile smacks Phantom around. Someone appears to Rita. Eldon, her father. He acts as if he's so pleased to see her, but then he smells the grid energy within her and turns. He curses his wife, and we see her dead body smiling. He says, "The child's been ruined," tossing her to a Tenga. In the story, the girl points to a point outside the woods, and the knight sees light.
Guess what it's like?
Eldon turns into Master Vile, explaining why Rita refers to Vile as her father, and curses Phantom for doing this. He plans to make the Master Forge, so I guess it wasn't destroyed and they're still on it, but this looked like a planet, into a torture chamber for Phantom, but the robot appears holographically to go, "Oh yeah, the station is gonna blow up. Oh yeah, I thought it already had blown up." "Fine," Vile says, "it'll be your grave then." They take Rita along so Vile can make something out of her. The station explodes as Vile's awesome skull ship leaves. Phantom is left floating in space and blah blah blah, the story, you have to be patient and wait for the light to triumph, etc, etc. We finally return to Hartunia in the now as Zordon asks what Phantom has learned about the Imperial threat that he finally seems to believe is a thing. But Phantom says, it's not them. They finally did it. He's arrived. Dark Spectre has crossed over.
What are you talking about?
First things first, on the last page, we see the Star of David symbol again, which was very nearly Strike 3, but it's the same symbol as before, so it's staying consistent within the story. Technically, it's the same strike, so I'm gonna let him get away with it.
Okay, I guess that makes sense.
What was that? Seriously, what the heck was that? I got next to nothing out of this issue. At best, it fills in a little bit of Rita's backstory. Now we know how Master Vile got a hold of her. But wasn't this supposed to be a story about the Phantom Ranger? We learned two things about our mysterious Ranger ghost friend, that he's made of grid energy and that he has a death wish. And neither of those things are really explained. This issue, this story, just really doesn't feel like it has a proper focus. Sometimes it's about Rita and Fiena's relationship, sometimes it's about the Phantom Ranger, and sometimes it's meaningless action against a muscle bird. It feels like all of the elements are here for a really compelling story, but then they all just got jumbled around and a few of them fell out of the box. This feels like heavy setup. But for what? This is a one-shot. I mean, I guess the framing device of the Phantom Ranger being on Hartunia means that he'll be a part of that story going forward. I guess we'll see. The trick with a one-shot like this is trying to decide if you're just going to tell an individual story that you want to tell, or folding it into the grander story of something else. In this case, I feel like they tried to have it both ways, telling a very individualized story, but still having this overall connect to the story of the main line of Power Rangers. Phantom Ranger steps on Hartunia, has a flashback that is really at best tangentially related to everything going on, and then we're back to reality. I'll say it again, I feel like the pieces were here to tell a really compelling story. They were just put together very poorly. Power Rangers Unlimited, Edge of Darkness, gets a 2 out of 5. Next time on a comically long review, it's time to resolve another long cliffhanger, and to satisfy my friend Bryce. I still have yet to determine the order of comic reviews going forward now that we're going back to individual issues, but regardless of that, it's finally time to get back to Radiant Black. Next time on a comically long review, Radiant Black, issue number 5. That is going to do it for another comically long review. Thank you, heroes, so much as always for watching. Now that the video's done, you can let me know what you thought of it, as well as this issue, Edge of Darkness. Did you feel that it was a really weirdly, tangentially connected, kind of unnecessary story, or did it really connect with you? You can let me know that down in the comments below. While you're down there, make sure you smack that thumbs up button to let me know that you enjoyed this video. And if you'd like to support the channel in any way financially that's not Patreon or Ko-fi, you can check out my Teespring store and score some sweet Orange Ranger merch. Until next time, heroes, may the power protect you. Usually number 1 of 1. Yeah, I'm looking over here too much. Phantom again tries to sacrifice himself to complete the mission, but wait, what? Even as Master by the